the nice part is I was planning on doing this video anyways, but these guys from Chip Theory Games, these guys showed up just in time to be included. Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and this is our Board Games Upgrades and Deluxifications video, except a little different than normal. For those who are paying attention, every single month I do a video on upgrades and deluxifications, including inserts and coins and realistic resources and all those things, and that's still a video series I'm doing, but this particular month I'm mixing it up a bit with a variety of upgrades and deluxifications, specifically miniatures. I'm going to be going over some of my favorite miniatures in games, a bunch of games that I really enjoy or really love or whatever kind of verb you want to attach to it. Games I really like that have miniatures or upgrades in them. Miniatures specifically, not upgrades. Although some of them are upgrades. Specifically this Chip Theory Games one over here, that's definitely an upgrade product as opposed to something that's part of the game. But for the most part, I would say these are all part of the game, just picking out some of my miniatures, just for the sake of variety, if nothing else. Now, this video, as usual, is sponsored by Top Shelf Gamer. There'll be a link down below, and to be clear, sponsors means that they send me stuff to cover here and there, and I do have a referral code down below, so if you do buy anything, there's a discount code as well for you, but if you do buy anything, I do get a cut of that, so understand all that bias and all that stuff. I generally show off their realistic resources, their inserts, their coins, all the things they have. Again, this video won't have me showing off their stuff, because I do it all the time, and this one's a little bit of a break from the norm. So, to that end, let's go ahead and dive into it. Let's dive into it. Timestamps down below as usual. This is just me going over some of the miniatures that I particularly enjoy because I think minis are cool. They don't add, that's not true, they do add to the experience. They don't make a bad game good. They don't make a bad game good, but they do add to the experience. Specifically, one of the reasons I wanted to do this video is I just covered Foundations of Rome recently, and I just had a review up on the channel this past week, but it really does add to the experience, and yes, Foundations of Rome miniatures will be in this video as well today. I think sometimes games are better when there's a degree of deluxification behind them. A degree of upgraded resources, upgraded miniatures, upgraded anything. Again, it does not make a bad game good, but it can make a good game better. And starting off the bat with some miniatures from Awakened Realms, who's actually featured twice on this video, actually. So they're going to be twice in this video, but we're going to start off with Tainted Grail. That's not true, it's not Tainted Grail, I don't know why I said that. We're going to start off with Lords of Hellas. Lords of Hellas from Awakened Realms. This is the precursor to Lords of Ragnarok, or it's just Lords of Hellas, and then Lords of Ragnarok is the follow-up. But these are some of the miniatures from Lords of Hellas, particularly confusing because we have one standard guy over here, who's a standalone miniature, sun dropped and everything. I didn't pick any of the troops, I picked some of the larger miniatures, but then from there it gets a little confusing because you go to the monument over here that comes apart. And yes, by the way, if you've never seen the horror stories of people who are like, I glued it together because I thought that they just disassembled to fit in the box or whatever, no, these are not meant to be glued, these are meant to be built, or in this case of this arm, meant to just fall out as you continue to build the monument in different parts. Because this goes, just different parts, like 4 or 5 different parts to it. I think 5, if I'm not mistaken, the base, maybe 4. Don't remember, but these are specifically meant to be assembled as you play the game. Specifically meant to be miniatures that you're going to build out as you play. They're going to be, one of the downsides of Lords of Hellas and Lords of Ragnarok a little bit, but Lords of Hellas more so, is the fact that these don't actually get built half the time. They're very cool, and then you rarely see them fully built on the board. But then to make things more confusing, we have this giant guy who you immediately assume should come apart, but this one doesn't. But he is one of the cooler ones, but he does not come apart, unfortunately. This is a gigantic behemoth of a miniature. I find Tainted Grail, Awakened Realms that is, Awakened Realms, especially with this series, did an amazing job combining like mythology together with like this mythology and technology together. They did a fantastic job, and these are some excellent miniatures from that. I don't have boxes for everything I'm showing today, but I wanted some boxes on the table. I didn't want to show the miniatures I'm showing on the table, so we'll get to those one at a time. From there, let's go ahead and dive into Mythic Games. Mythic Games, and we have this one over here with Super Fantasy Brawl. And I'm sad that I don't have 6 Siege yet, because 6 Siege had some, at least the prototype, had some of the best miniatures I've seen in board games in general, and not even from a theme that I like, which I think is why I'm even more impressed with it, because it's from a theme that I don't particularly care for, like modern, shooting and all that stuff. Not the typical thing I go for in a game thematic-wise. I don't mind it, but it's not my go-to theme. And the fact that I love the miniatures so much is even more impressive. Now these, I probably covered these in an unboxing. I believe I did. I did a round 2 unboxing of Super Fantasy Brawl, so if you watch that, these aren't necessarily new. But I find Mythic Games has some of the best miniatures in the business, period. I'm curious to see what they're, like, they started doing Sundrop, didn't they? They started doing Sundrop with Darkest Dungeon, if I'm not mistaken, but while Awakened Realms, once their stuff gets Sundropped, it's absolutely insane. Wait till you see the Nemesis stuff, we're going to get to that soon. It's absolutely insane. But on pure miniatures alone, I think Mythic Games is possibly the best from, like, if you're including the big three, like, you know, Come On, Awakened Realms, and Mythic Games in terms of miniature bling heavy games. I think Mythic Games might have the best consistently good miniatures from those three companies. And so, cue all the comments from like 14 people who are like, Come On's going downhill with the miniatures. Sometimes yes, sometimes. Other times no, sometimes yes. I hear you. The Come On has had inconsistent miniatures. In fact, I don't think Come On is featured in today's video actually, but with an older game, because I'm still waiting for the newer version of that older game. It's right over here, this one. It's right next to me over here. So, let's go through there to painted miniatures to mix it up a bit. Painted miniatures are going to be these over here from Zia. Okay, now there's more than one painted miniature set out there. There's a few out there, in fact. There's a few I consider. There's the Grizzled. The Grizzled has a deluxe version. Speaking of Come On, they have a deluxe version of painted miniatures. Come On has a bunch of upcoming campaigns with painted miniatures. I'm very excited for, what's it called? Freedom 5. Freedom 5 is going to have painted miniatures. But lots of painted miniatures, what they really need is they need a little bit of sun drop to make them pop. And that's true of the ones in Zia as well. Not sun drop. I don't know why I said that. Shading. They need a bit of shading to make them pop. And while it's true of these as well, these are still fantastic, and I also just got Zia back in my collection, so it's currently very present in my mind. But these are just some of their ships over here, which may or may not focus. There we go. These come pre-painted. They're really solid. They add a lot, especially because of the way Zia's like a very, I don't know if colorful is the right word, but that galaxy board, as you fly around, works really well. Having the extra level of immersion from painted ships is really, really impressive, and I really like having those painted ships on the table. I don't know if I'll shade these at some point. I'm always nervous that I'm going to make something worse, and so when I have something, especially when something's already painted, I'm always a little nervous that it'll become worse, but I like these. This is going to be the Enforcer. I think it's called the Enforcer. If I'm not mistaken, it's called the Enforcer. That's the little police ship that's flying around trying to take out... I think it is. I can't remember which ship is which, but let's see if we can make that focus over there. There we go. There we go, focusing. But yeah, basically you have a bunch of ships in Zia. You're going to have 3 NPC ships and then the actual player ships as well, all flying around the galaxy. I wanted to throw something in painted there to mix things up. From there, let's go ahead to... Where should we go next? Let's go to our standard miniatures. Standard over here. These specifically are the miniatures from Wild Assent. Wild Assent giving us some miniatures that I really wished I still had the dragon, the Sundrop dragon that they had. They had a prototype dragon for Wild Assent, the Uprising. It used to be behind me over here on the shelf. They asked me to send it on, unfortunately, which was very, very sad. Had to ship it to Canada. Hope it made it there in one piece, because these things can be fragile when they're in the prototype stage. But Wild Assent, or Lazy Squire Games. Lazy Squire Games has some of the best miniature sculpting out there. Now, best is relative and is to your personal preference, because one of the things they do have is that their miniatures are very incredibly detailed, which could make painting them a nightmare, and for some people can be too much detail. Like, it could be too much. In fact, a campaign that's coming up shortly, if not already. When's it launching? I think May 31st. A campaign launching May 31st. RuneScape Legends. RuneScape Legends? Maybe it's RuneScape Legends. RuneScape Kingdoms? RuneScape something. I can't remember the name offhand. But that one has very lo-fi miniatures, specifically to try to be like a bit of an homage to, you know, an older video game that's been out for quite some time. And while I very much understand the appeal of that, as someone who isn't painting their games anyway, I know how to, I just don't have time for it, but as someone who isn't painting their games anyway, the level of detail in these, I like it a lot. It really makes it pop, and that Sundropped, and again, Sundrop is technically an Awakened Realms term, that shaded dragon that they had was absolutely insane. Like, I held up the dragon to the campaign page, holding up the render next to the actual printed thing. The quality is insane. I find Lazy Squire Games, I'm so excited for both Storm Thunder as well as Rising. More Rising, because I already know I like Wild Ascent and I've already played that. Storm Thunder, I'm excited for with the nervousness of will I actually table it enough to be worthwhile. I am finding more time to table games, but there's more time and then there's still commitments. Now, in the spirit of mixing things up again, let's go ahead and grab those Foundations of Rome miniatures. I'm trying to alternate between plain miniatures that you expect in a dungeon crawler versus something else that is a little bit atypical. So to that end, let's go ahead and grab these Foundations of Rome miniatures. Now, these are actually Sundrop. These are actually using the official Sundrop terminology from Awakened Realms, which means I don't know what exactly the process in the back end as far as them leasing the term or something like that, but these are the best and coolest polyomino pieces you will ever see. I mean, that's insane. And not just from the stance. If you watched my review or my unboxing, my unboxing didn't talk about it because I hadn't played it yet. My review, well, I hadn't played it in person yet, I had played it online. My review covers the fact that these do not make it harder to table the game. They make it easier to table the game. Like this same game, and the price point will obviously be cheaper, the amount of space it takes on your shelf would be better, but the game itself is more accessible because of these miniatures, not less so, which is a rare thing to say. But throwing a bunch of these tokens in a bag would not have the same impact compared to like the way they have it in terms of just the box. It's insane. I recommend watching my review in case you're interested. They still had, as of the time of me filming this, they still had a handful of copies of the base game available to buy from their site. I'm assuming by the time you watch this, they'll be gone, unfortunately. But like, this is a polyomino piece. That is absolutely insanity. That's absolutely insane, or that's absolute insanity. I can't say that's absolutely insanity. That's too many Y's at the end of the word here. We have a simple harbor over here, a straight polyomino piece, not necessarily so clever, but beautiful to look at. I mean, these on your table, they add so much gravitas to the game, they absolutely make the game better. I think I've said absolutely too many times. I'm going to try to not say absolutely again the entire video, okay? So here's the deal. If I say absolutely again the entire video, aside from the time I just said it, you have to dislike the video. So that's my disincentive. It's a very good disincentive. I'm going to be very careful with my words now the entire time. I don't mind the dislike. I set a challenge for myself, and now I need to follow it. Anyways, going back to this one over here, but these on the table, they just make the game look so much better. I said in my review that they likely got a half point higher. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I really like the game, but it likely did get a half point higher because of the miniatures. Again, miniatures can make a good game better. More expensive? Yes. Take up more space on your shelf? Yes. There are still downsides, but it makes this game easier to table, and it makes the payoff of the experience you're having better. Not whatever better, just better, because I can't say whatever better, so you know what I'm talking about over here. Next up, let's grab those command miniatures. I'm trying to stack miniatures hidden all over my house over here, just so I can easily grab them without having to whatever. These are going a bit old school. These are going to Massive Darkness, the original Massive Darkness. I'm still waiting on Massive Darkness 2. I have a copy coming. It hasn't arrived yet. Yes, I'm not happy about it. I want my copy of Massive Darkness. Yes, I still have other games to play. Plenty of other games to play. No, I don't need it. Still want it. Those things are completely unrelated to each other. But these are incredible miniatures, especially when you consider when Massive Darkness came out. These are just really, really solid. Now, Command has had different levels of miniature quality in their games. I tend to be a big fan of their Zombicide ones, but even then they've had inconsistent quality. Their Rising Sun was amazing. Blood Ridge was amazing. They've had some really solid miniatures. I just chose Massive Darkness primarily because, first of all, it's an older title, and secondly, because Massive Darkness is on my mind. But look at this. I mean, look at these guys. This is just an insane little guy. Not little guy. This is an insane guy with a decent level of quality and sculpting behind it. This is before they started doing the sculpted bases, which is, you know, they only started doing sculpted bases recently. So you're going to have mostly before, but just the level of detail on an older sculpt like this. Old is relative, but like if you look at the original Zombicides, the level of detail is not there. Command absolutely grew as a company, and again, since then, like I didn't have Bloodborne. That's not true. I had Bloodborne, but I sold it immediately because I played it on TTS and it wasn't for me. But you see, not all Command games are for me. Lots of them are. Not all of them are. Many of the Zombicides get replaced. Bloodborne wasn't for me. There was that sports game that I ever played. I mean, I played it. I just didn't like it enough to keep it. It was good. It wasn't even bad. It was a good game. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. This stuff's insane. This is just, oh my gosh, I'm like looking at the camera screen as I show it to you, and I like it. Now don't get me wrong, I'm sure KOA could pull out a thing and show you all the parts where it's wrong. That's fine. I'm just telling you personally that I enjoy this. Anyways, next up, let's see what we want to go with. How can we mix it up next? We'll mix it up next with some of, let's go ahead with the brass mags that have taken way too long to come out here. The brass mags from Chip Theory Games. I didn't plan on getting these because I thought it was over the top. No, that's not true. Let's take a step back. When the campaign was going for Burncycle, I thought they didn't really have a good visual product of what they were selling. They had something that looked vaguely like this, but it didn't look compelling on the campaign itself. And so I just wasn't interested in taking a gamble on it. I should have known better. I should have known it better because they are amazing. But then I had my copy. I reviewed my copy. That's another game I already reviewed. Another game I really, really enjoy, although with caveats to the player count around it. But I then then I saw Jesse Quacklope had a copy of these, and I thought they were insane. Like, they were absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and show you some of these. But I have to get these. These are absolutely insane from Chip Theory Games, and they do add both to the... No, accessibility is a tough one. I was going to say that they add to the accessibility, but it's a bit of a caveat. Once they're on the table, they do, because they make carrying the chips around. I'll show you that in a second. But they still have, like, a separate box. I don't know if I'll fit them into the main box or not. I might try to keep them separately. Or not. I might try to throw them into the main box. I think I want to throw them into the main box. We'll have to see if I can find a way to do that. But I'll keep this box until I'm sure about that. But these over here... You can't get a good feel for these on camera. I mean, you can look at them. They obviously look pretty, but these are metal. They have heft to them. Like, I just pulled these out to show to my friend today, tonight, like whatever, right before I did this video, and he like took a look, and he's like, "Are those metal or plastic?" And I was like, "Metal." And then he picked it up, and I was like, well, as soon as he picked it up, there's that moment of, wow, I'm picking up something with heft. Like, it's a degree of, there's something nice about it. There's something nice about picking up something that clearly has a degree of quality to it. It's no different than plastic coins versus metal coins. They might look the same if they, you know, do them right, but when you pick them up, there's a degree of just pure difference here. Now, I will save this guy for last because I like her a lot. I assume her. I don't actually know the various genders of the robots. Robots don't have genders, I assume, but maybe they do. I don't know the rules around this stuff. But what I do know, this is going to be one of the bots you're fighting, the enemies. And they have such heft. But that's not the important part. The important part is the fact that over here, when you have one of their chips over here, which I do, I grabbed one. This is Gyro over here. Gyro is possibly my favorite one that I've played so far. I say so far because I have not played all of them, not yet. But possibly my favorite one that I've played so far. I love her skill set. Her ability set in the game is so solid. But either way, this is Gyro over here. Gyro's chip over here. This is Gyro herself with like those legs. That's basically, it may look a little confusing to you, but she's all about movement. She's all about the flexibility of being able to jump around and just immediately grab things out of her reach and then go in straight lines, zipping across the board. She is so impressive. And then you have stuff like this, where they clip on. So you can just go ahead and hold the chip. Let's see if we can show you this. You know, notice how I'm not holding that. I'm like shaking, nothing. This is Gyro on her chip, so you can go around and just pick up Gyro on the board and just move her across the board with that chip. Works really well, does a great job. I'm very excited to dive into this. I have the whole set. They have custom ones for all your robots, for all your, that's not the term, there's a term for what they are. I can't remember what it was. And then they have these for the general enemies. So the enemies are not customized, but I'm okay with that because there's only so many you can have before it starts getting a pain to actually pull them out. Pulling out the bots at the beginning of the scenario, that's great. You do that once. But the robots spawn as you go. I don't want to be hunting for more magnets as I'm going through the game. So really like those. Those are such a solid... They're so over the top. I mean, chip theory games in general, like, they're a new thing. I cannot wait because I guarantee you this will happen. Do I guarantee? Do I dare guarantee? I believe... I'm not going to guarantee. It's not up to me. I believe that at some point we will see a Kickstarter or a GameFound campaign for these for Too Many Bones. I think it's printing money. It would be silly not to. These are insane. And you don't need them. To be very clear, you do not need them. And the more stuff you have inherently, it will add. The more of these you have to try to figure out, it will add to a bit of the difficulty around the game. Of just setting up and all that stuff. As you grab chips and try to find the right one. And what do they represent the enemies with? The robots makes more sense. I don't know what their plans are. I just feel it would be... I feel we're going to see it at some point. These are way too premium, and I was incredibly skeptical of them. With that, we have two more. Let's go ahead and... I'm breaking the order, the pattern a bit of regular versus not. Let's go ahead and grab these from Uprising. These are not miniatures. These are not. But I specifically wanted to cover them in the video because of the fact that they are some of the best acrylic standees I've seen. And the color, the general fact you don't have to paint them, all that stuff, the shape outline. Uprising did a fantastic job with their acrylic standees. And I did want to cover them because they're like mini adjacent. You know, the mini adjacent, but they do a great job. Like these are what I want to see more of in terms of acrylic standees in games. Like, sometimes I see them and they're like, they just feel or look, not feel, I don't care about the feel. Sometimes when I see acrylic standees, they look cheap. These look solid. I really enjoy these from Uprising. They really did a great job of being able to sell a premium product at a cheaper price than you'd expect because they did this over here, because they were a little bit more flexible with the way they approached it. So I do hope to see more of these because I think that companies, have done right. I like miniatures, don't get me wrong, but miniatures do add to the price point, and lots of people don't like unpainted minis. I'm fine with them. I'd rather an unpainted mini than, you know, many other alternative options out there, but not everyone feels that way. And Uprising did a fantastic job that I definitely did want to highlight it. And lastly, I got all the stuff. Lastly, we have the Sundrop miniatures from Nemesis. These are possibly, almost certainly, my favorite miniatures from Awakened Realms. Specifically the Sundrop. That's the thing, that's the caveat. I think many Awakened Realms miniatures look amazing with and without Sundrop, but the gap in the coloring, the shading they threw onto these Nemesis miniatures are so... It's so insane. It's ridiculously insane. It's some of my favorite miniatures, and I haven't gone through Lockdown yet. I will unbox that at some point on the channel. But Lockdown arrived, by the way, for context. But I will get to them eventually. These, I just realized... I don't know if I've said the word in the past few minutes. That word, the word I'm not allowed to say, it's entirely possible I've said it because I forgot to be mindful of it. So I guess I'll just pay attention to that dislike counter because I may have said it. But anyways, these are incredibly is not the word I can't say, it's the other word I can't say. These are incredibly insane. I really I mean, look at this. Look at the shading. And I did a full unboxing of these. If you want to see more of these, I did a full unboxing of Nemesis a while ago. And I will be doing an unboxing of Lockdown at some point shortly-ish. I'm like 4 games behind on my unboxings at this point. So many games decided to show up at once. It was not fun. It was not fun. Because I try to do no more than 1 unboxing a week. I feel too many unboxings is just too much of a type of content that, like, I don't know. I like unboxings. I think unboxings have a merit and they can be done very well. They can be fun to watch, but especially the nature of what I do when I do an unboxing, where I ramble a bit and I'm just all over the place. If I do 2 unboxings in the same week, my thought process is going to be a little bit too linear because I've already rambled a bit. I need some sort of background, some sort of peripheral something going on in my life to ramble about. It might be games I've played, it might be just moods I'm in, things I've had happen to me that week. If I film unboxings the same week, it's going to be a little too forced, and I never want the content to be forced. I always want the content to be a completely rambling lack of chain of thought, of consciousness that it currently is. I'd rather that than anything else. Anyways, we have the Queen here, who is very, very solid. The Queen's actually not my favorite. I probably shouldn't save the Queen for last. A little bit too big. That I think from the ones I showed you, I think actually the first one's my favorite. This one, because size isn't everything. Size is not everything. Sometimes you have these miniatures over here. This is large enough that it already has the heft or the impressiveness of something that's not like tiny. Like, where are like these guys? These Gerlachs over here, these brass mags. That's tiny. I'll admit that. That takes away a little bit from the impressiveness. It's functional. It works. It makes sense, especially in terms of the scope and scale. I'm not complaining. But sometimes you want a certain amount of size to pick up that level of detail, that basic level of starting detail. But once you have that, it doesn't necessarily come down to just getting larger and larger. It comes down to the level of quality. And the Queen is great, but a little over the top. I really like these 2 over here. They're really, really cool. I think they're solid. But that's basically it. These are the miniatures I chose to go over. I just went over my game collection, went over what I had, and tried to figure out what would really stand out. There were a lot of other ones that didn't make the cut for right now, that may show up in other videos, so I'll avoid mentioning their names in case they do. It's not so much an issue of cut, it's an issue of I just have a limited number of miniatures I can show. So I went for a variety of some things that were different, as well as some of my favorite miniatures in games. There'll always be room for more of these because I will do another one of these down the road. There's some really cool miniatures, and I mean, all of these add to the level of immersion I get from the game. They're not the same without these things. They're not the same with tokens. They're not the same with bits. You definitely get a cheaper game without those things, and that might be a factor in your decision. You should focus on getting those, or things like Uprising, where they kind of hit a halfway point and give you those options. I just think miniatures do add to my immersion in the game. They add to the level of experience that I have, potentially at a cost at times. Sometimes there are 1 or 2 games where they just have too much stuff, and I moved on from them because I have a limit. I have a cap of what makes sense for me personally. But all of these, every single thing you see here, they've added to my experience when playing the game. And that means a lot to me. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Again, reminder, this is sponsored by Top Shelf Gamer. Usually I only say that at the beginning, but honestly I feel like I didn't really showcase their stuff this week, so I'm going to remind you again. Top Shelf Gamer, they make inserts, they make realistic resources, they sell sleeves, coins, they have I don't think they make inserts, they sell inserts, I should be correct my words. They have a lot of stuff out there, and if you are interested in getting that stuff, there's a discount code down below that will have all the details of it, of like what it's good for, all those things. You can check that out. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Thanks for being here, and have a good one.